Welcome to BioNTX Presents Inside Innovation, the flagship podcast from BioNTX, where we explore the pulse, potential, and people driving our region's life sciences and biotech ecosystem. I am your host, Eric B. Moore, Chief Communications Officer at BioNTX. Today, we're spotlighting a cornerstone of our innovation landscape, BioLabs at Pegasus Park, and the woman helping lead this vision forward, Gabby Everett, Director of Business Operations and Strategy. BioLabs represents more than a physical infrastructure. It embodies the abundance of possibility that defines North Texas. With access to space, mentorship, capital, and community, BioLabs helps founders move from concept to company, turning potential into progress. And at the heart of that abundance is leadership. People like Gabby, who work every day to make sure that entrepreneurs, scientists, and innovators have not just what they need to begin, but what they need to belong. Gabby, it is so awesome to have you. Thank you. Welcome,
Absolutely.
Welcome to Inside Innovation.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
We've done this in various places, in various forms, and now we're on camera.
Right. I know it's official. We've had these like casual conversations like this all the time, and putting it all into one place is great.
It's exciting.
Thank you.
First of all, before we get started, I want to tell our audience, we want to thank Gabby. This is our studio. Our studio is literally at BioLabs, and I remember when I came up with the concept for this show, you said you got to do it here at BioLabs. So, which represents, I think, the essence of you as a leader, but also the essence of what BioLabs means for our infrastructure, means for our community and our ecosystem. So, just a public thank you for allowing us to have our show here. All
Absolutely.
Right? Awesome. So, we're going to start. We're going to jump into this. We're going to start with the topic of the essence of BioLabs and its impact. Okay? We're going to start with that. So BioLabs has truly become a defining presence in our region's life science landscape. For those who may not know the story, how do you describe the mission of BioLabs, and what do you believe has made such a catalyst for innovation and growth here in North Texas?
Yeah, absolutely. So BioLabs, as you mentioned, we are kind of the infrastructure component of this biotech life sciences community. And really the idea is that it's shared office and lab space. We're a global network, 15 locations across the world, mostly here in the U.S., mostly in the Northeast and also in California, also several labs overseas. And this North Texas location is the first and only kind of center U.S. location for BioLabs right now.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, and really, when I tell people, we started in Boston, Cambridge, Princeton, Tufts, NYU, Philly, Yale, RTP, LA, San Diego, the first question they have is, why did you pick Dallas? And I know we're going to get into this a little bit more in the conversation, but we have all of these pillars that you really need to be a biotechnology, healthcare, life sciences hub. Yes. So BioLabs as an org is thrilled to be here at North Texas, specifically at Pegasus Park. The idea of this co-working space where scientists can come in, license a single bench. You can see the lab benches here behind us, and active scientists at work, which is always a cool thing. They license a single lab bench, and that gives them access to $5 million in research equipment, specialty rooms like tissue culture, microbiology, confocal microscopes. So it's really a life sciences playground that we provide to people. And we even give them a carousel of pipettes and turn them loose inside to do their scientific discovery. So it's an exciting place to be. Founder-friendly, investor-friendly. You notice I said license the lab bench, not lease the lab bench. Leasing is typically indicative of a long-term agreement. We understand the speed of science, and we understand that sometimes that speed requires you to pivot. So all of our agreements are month to month. We don't take equity. There's no first right of refusal for the technology. So it's a very founder-focused model. And I think that really lends itself to the why.
Yes.
The goal of BioLabs is to decrease the barrier of entry for life sciences and biotechnology. There's amazing discoveries happening all across North Texas from our, what is it, like 7 R1 research institutions we have here.
Big deal. Yeah,
Incredible technologies coming out of these universities, spin-outs as we call them. But science is expensive. So if any of those spin-outs wants to get their roots started outside of the university, it could cost $4 to $5 million to set up a lab space. So here, companies are able to come in to turnkey lab space, get started quickly. And again, it's about decreasing those barriers so that more of these incredible ideas can make it out into the world to help people. So really our goal is to help founders move faster and smarter.
I love that. And we talk about the term life sciences. And when you come to BioLabs, BioLabs is literally alive with the excitement of science, with the possibilities of science. And when you walk through the door, you feel it. Every day I come to the office here, and I'm grateful to have an opportunity to office here. It is truly an experience. Now, you've said, Gabby, before that our region doesn't suffer from scarcity, and you've said that several times. We have an abundance, as you've mentioned, of resources, talent, and opportunity. I'd love to explore what that abundance looks like through the lens of BioLabs, which leads me to the next section, which I titled The Power of Abundance. You often talk about this and the things that we have here, as you so eloquently put in your opening, not just in funding or infrastructure, but in people, ideas, and potential.
Yes.
Can you share what that abundance means in practical terms for founders and innovators at BioLabs? And then secondly, how do you and your team help translate that abundance into action for companies at various stages of growth? Yeah,
great question. You know, I think abundance here at BioLabs and really in North Texas as a whole comes in many forms. If we look at the 20 companies that we're currently supporting here at this location, if I had to take those 20 companies and put them into categories, we'd have 13, 14 different categories. So the diversity of science happening here represents a form of abundance. We've got companies that are working on cancer therapeutics, both small molecule immuno-oncology. We've got neurodegenerative companies that are working on therapies and diagnostics. We've got synthetic biology, sustainability. We're working on cancer vaccines. There's so much exciting stuff. We've got technology in wearable medical devices. We've had surgical medical devices, more diagnostics, right? So there's this huge diversity in science happening here, and those companies are from everywhere. When we initially brought this site online, our thought was, let's keep the North Texas companies coming out of our universities. Yes. Let's retain that talent and those ideas and that IP and that funding. Let's keep all of that here in the region. But what ended up happening is that there was an influx. We've got companies from Boston. We've had companies from New York, Maryland, Arizona, companies from California that are collaborating with UT Southwestern that are setting up shop here. So we've got a diversity of companies from locations and different regions and different ecosystems coming in. And they're also at different stages, right? So we have that small scale, single bench, family and friend round company. And then we also have those companies that have reached large valuations that are currently in clinical trials that have housed, 40 people in this facility. So seeing kind of those broad interactions and that kind of like diversity and that abundance of diversity has really been exciting. And we're able to take that abundance and turn it into something tangible by the collisions that we create here at BioLabs, because it's not just about the infrastructure, it's about the community. It's about looking out at the flow cytometer and seeing people from 3 to 4 different companies surrounding the flow cytometer all being excited about an aha moment. It's about seeing our CEOs surrounding the water cooler, also known as the cold brew tap, talking business development and sharing strategy and sharing war stories and successes. It's about about seeing CEOs in a conference room together going through their pitch decks and looking through each other's grant applications.
Yeah.
It's the way that diversity turns itself into the collisions that launch companies. That's the cool thing about what happens here.
I love that. And as you know, I'm a jazz enthusiast.
Yep.
And I liken coming to work and being in the environment that you mentioned, like a Miles Davis jam session, right? You sometimes might not know what to expect.
True.
But you get a bunch of great people in the room, and you wind up with Kind of Blue, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But here's the other thing, Gabby, and I want to put you on the spot here. You talked about all this innovation that's going on in the back. I am still wanting to find out when the solution for me to grow my afro will be. I miss my afro, right? So for all you viewers out there, I had a Michael Jackson afro when I was young, and I miss that afro.
Oh, wow.
And I want my afro back. So these scientists need to get on it, right?
Yeah, well, you never know. You never know who's gonna hear this and be inspired by that idea.
I heard there's a secret room, but we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that, right?
Right. But but the other thing that I want to mention real quick before we move on is we'll talk later about successes and some of the cool things that have happened here.
Yeah.
But we've seen new company creation just by virtue of having two companies sitting right next door to each other, right? Yeah. We had a company from SMU here locally and another company from California, from the Bay Area, and they worked on a collaborative spin-out just because they, started talking about their technology. We're seeing another spin-out happen now, though we can't really talk about it just yet, but some really exciting things that are happening just because of these casual collisions that are being created on campus.
Yeah, proximity matters.
Proximity matters
proximity
tremendously.
Matters.
Yeah.
Which leads me to the next section here, Gabby. This sense of shared abundance, you just described that, rather than competition.
Yep.
Right? Really defines the culture we're building it here in North Texas. And we saw this at Bio International. We had the state of Texas, we had DeSoto, we had Fort Worth, we had Arlington, we had people representing the entire state. And I remember people coming to our booth area and they were like, wow, there's something special going on in Texas. And I think that shared abundance is something that is not unique to us, but it defines, I think, to some degree, the Texas way. And I've used that term before. There's just something different. And I think it's embodied in the halls and the walls of BioLabs here. So before we transition, Gabby, we've talked about all the great things that are going on. We've talked about the strategies. We've talked about this particular location's proximity relative to the BioLabs universe. But let's talk about Gabby. Let's talk about your personal journey and leadership perspective. So that leads me, before we go deeper again into the ecosystem, let's pause and focus on you. You've worked across multiple dimensions of science and startup growth, and you've seen firsthand what it takes for innovation to move from idea to impact. What is it about your current role that excites you the most, and how has your personal journey prepared you to help BioLabs through this next chapter of growth and community building, something that we called at IC3 the next 10 years and beyond? Tell us a little bit about Gabby.
Well, so I started at the bench, and my career into the bench, I think, was an interesting one in that I always loved science as a kid. I didn't know exactly what science I was going to get into.
I think you use the nerd word a lot.
I am
right?
an absolute nerd. Yes, full-fledged. I am a nerd through and through. And as a nerd, I love all types of science. But it wasn't until an opportunity to visit a research lab in high school that opportunity for career discovery flipped that switch of I want to be a bench scientist, right? So I think that story, which is probably for another podcast, is an interesting one and really reflects the opportunity that we have in North Texas to create, an incredible talent pipeline entrepreneurs, innovators who can do some really exciting stuff who don't know that they're going to be bench researchers yet. So I love that I'm able to kind of pay that forward and bring students into BioLabs and to Pegasus Park and Bridge Labs and show them what we do here. But yeah, started out as a bench scientist, and I always thought I would be that person who, eureka, has some kind of discovery. But throughout the course of my career, I've realized that focusing on one particular branch of science, while fun, it didn't feed that curiosity as much. So what I love about what I do, and probably what excites me the most, is that I get to empower all kinds of companies doing all kinds of science, right? Like previously I mentioned the 14 or so different categories of science we have. We get to be involved in that. We get to share in that excitement with our companies. We get to ask them questions and learn what we're doing and share in those successes. So I think that's fun. As a scientist too, and our whole team, we're all nerdy scientists. It's also very helpful from our perspective when we see someone at the bench down in the dumps and they're like, my PCR didn't work for the 18th time. Hey, we understand where we're coming from, right? Or, we've had the joy of having a patent granted. So if someone walks around and their head's a little bit higher, right? We can empathize with them. So I think if anything, being at the bench has definitely taught me that empathy, and it's taught me the work required to go from research to reality. And I've done that before. So I think that, what's great about working for BioLabs, with BioLabs, working for and in service of these companies, is that it puts us in the middle of this beautiful Venn diagram between science, communication, and service. So like you mentioned, there's never a dull moment around here. Every day is different. You could do a podcast one day, talk to a group of students the next day, tour around CEOs. So it's a very exciting environment.
I love that. One of the things, Gabby, I talk about often, and I make it a part of my own personal journey. When you see someone living in their purpose, it is a joy to behold. And when you see someone like the innovators here seeking their purpose, it is a joy to behold. And so wrapped up in all of the science, wrapped up in all the technology, I like to focus on the human journey. And that's fundamentally what this is about. It's about people having the courage to think differently. It's about people having the courage to lead. It's about people having the courage and the confidence to share their vulnerabilities and talk to others who are on that journey and say, what are you hearing? What are you learning? How did that affect you? And how do you move forward? So that's one of the things I want to, inside innovation, it's about the innovation, but more so, equally so, it's about the human journey. So thank you for pointing that out. Your personal alignment with the mission is so clear, Gabby, in the way you lead. And we see each other every day, and I just admire your personality and your leadership. And it's part of what makes this BioLabs location, I think, such an authentic extension of the ecosystem itself. And it shows, which leads me to my next section, the nature of catalysts. I spoke a little bit about this in my intro. I've spoken with it in previous interviews. I had the wonderful opportunity of having Matt and Lily here from Lighter Hill Philanthropies and Lighter Hill Capital. So the nature of catalysts and the BioLabs effect. In my own reflections, I've written about the nature of catalysts. It's something I'm just obsessed with. Those people and organizations who lead to create the conditions for innovation to take root. When you think about BioLabs, how do you see it playing that catalytic role? And then what are some of the sparks or success stories that have shown you the power of creating a shared space for science, creativity, and collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you use that word catalyst because it is a super nerdy word, right? A catalyst.
For the record, I too am a nerd.
Of course. That's why we get along so well.
That's why we get. I just hit it in football. The reason I play football because deep down I was a nerd that read encyclopedias all the time, so I needed to have this tough guy image. For the record, but love the nerd.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, catalysts are, it means creating the conditions where cool, exciting things happen.
Yes.
And then getting out of the way, right? And letting things build from there, So BioLabs as a catalyst, as the infrastructure, providing tremendous research equipment and facilities for our researchers, providing, doing things like resident mixers and lunch and learns and investor founder happy hours, right? These are the things that, where the possibilities happen, So exciting to be about a part of that. And I absolutely believe in the BioLabs effect. We've had multiple successes come out of this facility. One of them actually just announced something really exciting. One of the very first companies that joined us, immuno-oncology platform company called AHA Biologics, spin out of Alloy Therapeutics out of Boston. They've got an incredible company, a great team. They were one of our first companies, started with us with about 4 people.
Yes.
They won CPRIT funding. They graduated out of BioLabs into the North Texas region, which is, another very exciting thing about this BioLabs is the companies that come out of this facility contribute to the North Texas story and continue to contribute to the North Texas ecosystem and for, successes yet to come. But they recently signed a licensing agreement with March Biosciences. So I know, right? A great, an incredible example of success. So we're excited for them. We had another company that was a UT Southwestern spin out, GenRab. They've got really cool neuroprotective antibody technology. They won a golden ticket through Boehringer Ingelheim. So a golden ticket gave them free lab space for a year. Yeah. In that first year, they reached fantastic milestones, competed on a global BioLab scale for another golden ticket, and won an additional golden ticket from the global pharmaceutical company Otsuka in a live pitch competition in Boston.
Wow.
So that second year enabled them to get more researchers, more sciences. They've got funding announcements that they've had. So just a couple of examples of fantastic successes. I mean, you've been here and you've seen it happen.
It's magical.
It really is.
It's special.
So it's really cool to create that buzz. And I absolutely agree with you. The BioLabs effect of lowering those barriers of entry and getting more science out there is what our goal is.
It's real. It's real. And again, we do a lot of business development. We work with several EDCs in the region. And when we're doing those presentations, one of the things that we hear most often, especially when people come to visit, is that there's something different here.
There is.
And so part of Inside Innovation is really kind of quantifying that, right? And articulating that and capturing that for our audiences. So it's amazing, Gabby, how a single environment, one, as we've talked about, that celebrates abundance and possibility can become the gravitational center of an entire region, especially anchored and fueled by the BioLabs effect. This leads me to my next section, convergence and collaboration. At Pegasus Park, we see this remarkable convergence of for-profit companies, nonprofits, universities, we've spoke about it, and philanthropic efforts, all operating side by side. From your vantage point, how does that convergence actually play out in the day-to-day life at BioLabs? And how does proximity, we mentioned proximity before, how does proximity to that mix of perspectives amplify innovation for your residents and partners? And we've touched on it a little bit, but if you can go just a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I'm going to start moving outward and to talk a little bit about Pegasus Park. So you mentioned BioLabs at Pegasus Park.
Yes.
Well, for our listeners who don't know, what is Pegasus Park? So Pegasus Park is a 26-acre campus. We are about 5 minutes away, just south of UT Southwestern, in Dallas, really creating kind of this beautiful innovation district.
Yes.
As of now, we've got 3 buildings here on campus. We are here in BioLabs now. Next door, we have Bridge Labs, which we'll talk about that in a minute. And then we also have the Pegasus Park Tower.
Yes.
And the tower has multiple universities. We've got UT Southwestern, SMU, UT Arlington, Dallas College, all represented at Pegasus Park.
And a great cafeteria.
Amazing cafeteria.
And great art.
That chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
And don't get me started on the macaroni and cheese bar. The macaroni and cheese bar is amazing.
Next level.
Yeah.
And great art. That art is second to none.
It's really cool. I think everything about Pegasus Park is meaningful.
Yes.
There's also the water cooler with 35 to 40 nonprofits that do everything from workforce development, early childhood education, environmental, mental health. We have multiple accelerators over at the tower. We've got Mass Challenge. We've got the incredible Health Wildcatters. We've got touchdown spaces for investors. We've got corporate headquarters for biotech over in the tower. And then you've got the startups over here at BioLabs and like the larger companies over there settled at Bridge Labs. So you have this incredible example of literally a living laboratory of abundance and convergence here on campus. So, startups, nonprofits, universities, investors, innovators, other entrepreneurs from other industries, they're all roaming the hallways and sharing that cafeteria together. And what happens when you have that close proximity is that you build trust.
Yes.
Trust accelerates collaboration and innovation. It's really that example of innovation happens at the intersections. Well, there's a lot of intersections at Pegasus Park, and we all want to be here. It's amazing when you wake up in the morning and you say, I get to go to BioLabs, not I have to go to work.
Yeah,
and our innovators feel that way. Yes, my experiment may have failed, but I've gotten to do it in a cool place, and I've been surrounded with this supportive environment. And we are all, again, trying to achieve the same goal of furthering science, furthering innovation, and collaborating to improve the ecosystem. And what we've discovered here on campus is that ecosystem is a verb. It's something that you do, and it's something that everybody on campus contributes to. So it's really a cool thing that's happening here, and this is just the beginning.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. And this Gabby leads to the last question. Looking ahead, the future of the ecosystem, the future of the verb, if you will.
Yep.
As we look ahead, what are some of the key indicators or priorities that you think will define the next stage of growth for BioLabs and the broader North Texas life sciences ecosystem from Lubbock to Dallas to Tyler and all points in between? Where do you see the greatest opportunities to leverage that abundance of resources into sustained momentum for the region?
Yeah, it's interesting when we think about the next phase of BioLabs. The next phase of BioLabs here in North Texas is launching companies that stay in the region.
Yes.
You can't stay in the region if you don't have that what's next of lab space, graduate space, as we would call it. So one of the exciting things that we have on campus is Bridge Labs, and it is that what's next. So we've got 4 graduate suites that range from 5,000 square foot to 8,000 square foot, turnkey ready lab space. And then we also have shell space that can be carved up for other companies that want to either go out of BioLabs and stay here in North Texas, or corporate relocations that want to be here.
Yes.
That Bridge Labs facility got triggered early, honestly, because of the tremendous success that we had here at BioLabs. In the first 2 years of this facility, we reached 25 companies and 80% occupancy, right? That gives you an idea of the pent-up appetite for biotech in North Texas.
Yes.
In this region. So I really think that the next phase of biotech for North Texas is scale,
Yes.
right? We've shown that companies can build here and be successful here. We want to be able to scale them, from this foundation that we've built, and that means attracting manufacturing. I know in a couple of other groups you've talked about building the manufacturing and biotech manufacturing workforce. Yeah. We're also creating, I would say, the next generation of founders and operators by partnering with Alloy Therapeutics and their Future Founders program, Biotechnology Startup Academy, that's helping to train that next group of operators to bring companies here to BioLabs. So, that workforce is something that we're building, expanding capital access as things like the Texas Stock Exchange, Y'all Street happens.
Y'all Street,
The economy in Texas is expanding, and the financial district is growing, and people are seeing that. So we're starting, so there's a lot more interest in capital here, which is really exciting too. And I would really think honestly that we're not becoming a hub. We are a hub.
I love that.
We are a hub. So, if when you combine that abundance that we've talked about and that sense of collaboration,
and the catalyst,
there's really no ceiling to what we're building in the North Texas region. So it's really exciting to be a part of.
I agree, Gabby, and I'm so glad you mentioned the various sectors, workforce development, all of those things, and I want to thank you for your support on the committees that you sit on and support and bring your wisdom, bring your perspective, and bring your energy, because it does make a difference, and we are not only just emerging. I think we're in the process right now of being.
Exactly.
And so that's a beautiful thing. So that forward-looking perspective captures exactly why I believe, and our audience, I hope, believes as well, this community continues to accelerate, not just because of what we have, but because of how we share it and the mentality going into it. So with that, Gabby, this has been a wonderful day. It has just been a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me and the extraordinary work that you continue to do. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to work with you, to work in the same shared space with you, and to watch someone who I admire continue to ascend, continue to inspire, and continue to lead. So it has been truly an honor having you here today. Thank you so much for your time. My
pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Our listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in to BioNTX Presents Inside Innovation. This podcast is part of North Texas's broader mission to convene, connect, and catalyze the North Texas life science and healthcare innovation ecosystem. If you are a member, sponsor, or supporter of North Texas, we deeply value your support and contributions to this community. If you're interested in membership, sponsorship, or supporting the ecosystem, please scan the QR code on the screen to learn more. Because in North Texas, innovation is not built on scarcity, it thrives on abundance. And as I always say, be well until the next time.